you are that source, which is the source of everything, which is the source of all your levels, all the dimensions of your being. And so this is why in some traditions that's emphasized most heavily, to know that you are that. And there's some value in that. I won't deny it. However, it doesn't always work just exclusively to know that. So what can happen is that you can know that, but you have unresolved stuff in these other dimensions of your existence. And so as long as that unresolved stuff is there, then you can't keep your attention fully on that highest level. So just I'm saying I'm throwing a lot of information out there. So let me clarify, just take a step back and clarify what I'm talking about. So that highest level or lowest level or ultimate level or whatever you want to, however you want to refer to it or conceive of it, is what could be sometimes called the Atman or Brahman or consciousness or the self with a capital S, or many different names might be given to it, depending on the tradition and the understanding and the language and so forth. But it's that supreme reality, the ultimate source from which everything flows. And so I often make this point that uh, and I know sometimes people take issue with this, but as far as it goes, it's basically true that this waking state is akin to a dream. So if you think about in a dream, uh, you have a dream at night, and in that dream, that whole universe, that whole dream universe appears, including all of the characters, all of the locations, all of the objects, everything appears in that dream. And you might identify with a particular point of view, a particular character in that dream, and you say, "This is me, and this is my experience, and I'm having all this is happening to me, and it's all I'm navigating this whole universe and interacting with all of these characters and beings." And then when you wake up, that whole dream universe vanishes. And where does it go to? It goes right back into its source, which it never left, which is consciousness. So it always existed in consciousness as consciousness. And when it vanishes, it again returns into that same consciousness. So it's only consciousness ever. It never is anything other than consciousness. It's just consciousness appearing as the dream. And so the waking state is really non-different from that. I mean, we could argue that there are subtle differences and distinctions to be made, but fundamentally, essentially, the same thing is true of the waking state, which is that all of this is consciousness. It's only consciousness. It's appearing in consciousness as consciousness is never not consciousness. And that you are that consciousness. This is also the important point. So in the nighttime dream, you can imagine and identify as a particular point of view or character in that dream. But when you wake up, what happens? Are you still identified with that character? No, you're not. I mean, at least not if you pay attention. You'll notice that the identification shifts. And indeed, if you pay attention, the identity is shifting all the time. So there might be a recurrent theme of body identification, for example, but then there's also identification with all kinds of personalities or subpersonalities. And that's always shifting. And you're not constantly identified with the body. That comes and goes. You know, one moment you're identified with the body, and then another moment you're identified with jealousy, and another moment you're identified with lust, and another moment you're identified with hunger, and another moment you're identified with all these different things, and then again with the body, and then with this, and then with that. So the identity is not steady. Actually, we make the mistake of thinking that that identity is steady, but the identity is not steady. It's always shifting. It's a point of view. It's a perspective, and but all of that is occurring in consciousness as consciousness. It's all an appearance within consciousness. So just like the nighttime dream, this waking state is also appearing in consciousness, which means that the character that you identify with, whatever that is in the moment, whatever that character is, whether it's the body or it's a desire, it's a personality trait or whatever it is, that point of view that you're identifying with in that moment is actually just an appearance in consciousness. the identification, that process of identification is to say, I am this body, I am this desire, I am this personality, I am this thing. But you're never that. You are actually always, just like in the dream, you're never the character in the dream. You're always that consciousness in which it is all appearing. And that's the one thing that doesn't change, actually. So the states change. Waking state comes and goes, dream state comes and goes, deep sleep state comes and goes. But what does not come and go is consciousness. That's the one steady thing. The shift in identity is happening over and over and over and over, right? It's this moment I'm identified this way, the next moment I'm identified a different way. But the constant is consciousness. That's the one steady constant. So it does not change. The states come and go, but consciousness remains. And so at the highest level, or the deepest level, or the lowest level, or the most fundamental level, or however you want to understand it, you are that. That is the one steady, continuous, unchanging, reliable constant. And you are that.